So I was thinking again about that zigzag trail that goes up a slope that will be a park. Now at the ends of one side there would obviously be flat trails to go off to connect with whatever is over there. And at the other end it would cut into the barranca on slope. But what I realize is the whole thing doesn't have to be zigzagged. You could have parts of it be, if it's wide enough, level, which is always good. Contour trails are great. And then they get zigzag up to the other one. And then if we're thinking about the steepness of it, the slope, we don't want it to be over 12%, let's say, because that's what civil engineers say is, you know, I think they say 15 is actually the maximum comfortable level. I forget. But I change that to 12. I don't want to approach maximum, right? I want to make it comfortable. And the wider it is, of course, I mean, you could imagine a one that was narrow, and it would have all these quick switchbacks, right? And so you would need more of them to be at 12%. But and that would use less space. But if you do it bigger, right, the bigger it is, then the more space you have in between these trails to dig that out and make flat spots that might have a covering. It might have a covered spot to sit, and on the upper part of it, that might be a platform you could stand on, or you might build into this slope some composting toilets or whatever. So it's really hard to picture it, but like even on your map, you can imagine just kind of stretching these out. And then that would be telling you in a GIS system or something, geographic information system or some program, it could even tell you your options. Like, oh, well, you've moved this line enough that this is now a place that if you were to determine that a good roof size is 8 feet or 9 feet or something, that you could put a building in right there. That would be a handy little program. It'd be nicer as an add-on to a open source GIS program like ArcGIS or something like that. But that would be kind of a way to doodle trails along a slope, you know? That would be really cool. And you know, whether those could be like sitting spots, they could be fire spots, they could be dog houses. And then you also mix in with that gardens. And of course, the upside of your slope, you could decide in some cases to have a retaining wall. And so you could fill that in and have a deeper garden there that wasn't slopey. So you have a lot of options that I hadn't really thought of initially when I was thinking about these slopey trails. You know, because I was imagining like hiking trails, right? But we really could think of it almost more like a staircase, except in this case it's not a staircase, although as I mentioned, you could always have a staircase go straight up it, right? As well, with different flat spots to connect with the trail as needed. All of these, of course, get rained on, and I'm imagining dirt trails, right? Because that's what I've got. But eventually you could decide that you were going to take some of these trails and you were going to cement them. That has some value since these dirt trails have rocks in them. They're harder to like clean. Obviously you wouldn't want to ever get slippery. But you know, oak leaves fall on trails and they make them slippery. So I guess, you know, what starts out as just a simple idea of a slopey trail, a zigzag up a hill. Really, there's so many things you could add to it. You could add in bird houses, bird baths. You could add in whole buildings. I mean, you could dig a building into slope under a trail, all the way into the upper slope above that trail. And I mean, ultimately, I've thought about whole buildings that were along an incline. And in a way, this zigzag trail is potentially the ramp that exists within a building. I mean, you could do a whole greenhouse, you know, with 2 entryways on it, or across the whole thing. I mean, the options are pretty endless.